Hi everyone, my name is Sarah and today we're going to learn about the history of dermatology. So, have you guys ever heard of dermatology? Okay, I'm sure that a lot of you have probably visited a dermatology clinic, maybe not for yourself, but perhaps for someone in your family or one of your friends, because dermatology is extremely popular in Korea. It was one of the first things that I noticed when I moved here for the first time. So hopefully you'll get to learn a little about this subfield of medicine that has a pretty big impact in South Korea. All right, let's go. Dermatology is the branch of medicine related to skin, hair, and nails. Dermatologists are physicians that diagnose and treat conditions in this area of healthcare. So, do you still think that you don't know what dermatology is? All right, look at this ad. I'm sure you have seen a million of these ads everywhere because they are literally plastered on every surface in South Korea. So if you want like a one-to-one translation of the word dermatology, you can just translate it as like 피부과, or basically like medicine dealing with your skin. So dermatology is a branch of medicine related to your skin, your hair, and your nails. And dermatologists, those are the doctors who specialize in dermatology. So ist, usually it implies some kind of person or a professional. And so what they do is diagnose and treat conditions in that area of healthcare. So when a doctor diagnoses you with a condition, they're telling you, okay, I've looked at your symptoms, I've run some tests, and I think that you may have this problem or this disease or this condition. So dermatologists, they diagnose conditions that have to do with the skin. The Ebers Papyrus, an Egyptian medical document dating back to 1550 BC, provides some of the earliest records of skin-related illnesses known to mankind. So I was under the impression, I thought that dermatology was a pretty new form of medicine. But I was actually mistaken. It turns out that the ancient Egyptians had published a manuscript or a book, or in this case it was a papyrus scroll. And in this scroll, it provides some records of skin-related illnesses. So even 3,500 years ago, people were concerned about the condition of their skin and making themselves look healthy or maybe even beautiful, who knows. So this is one of the earliest medical documents in the history of mankind. So the human race, like all people that have evolved and lived on this planet. So that's pretty impressive. Okay, so we know the Egyptians, they kind of started the field of dermatology way back in the ancient times. But what about modern dermatology? Italian physician Girolamo Mercurare, I don't speak Italian, I'm so sorry, wrote De Morbis Cutaneis, which translates to On the Diseases of the Skin in 1572. It is credited as the first scientific work revolving around dermatology. So if there are a lot of words that you don't recognize in this sentence, it's okay. There's some Italian in there, there's some Latin in there. You don't need to know a lot of these words. So de morbis cutaneis, that's just Latin for on the diseases of the skin. So de means of, morbis means disease, and cutaneous, that means skin. So on disease of skin. Simple, right? Yeah, so this book, De Morbis Cutaneis, which you can see an English translation of right here, it's one of the very first books that anyone wrote about the field of dermatology. Except for the one that we talked about earlier in ancient Egypt. But this one had a little bit more scientific analysis, so that's why we're picking it out. Francesco Bianchi's Dermatologia the first textbook of modern dermatology for medical students was released in 1799. So I couldn't find a real copy of this book, so I just made it like this. I hope you don't mind. But this is Francesco Bianchi. I think he's also Italian. So our friend Girolamo Michelale, he wrote a book about dermatology, but it wasn't really a textbook. So this Dermatologia, this book written by Francesco Bianchi, it was the first book that medical students or people who are studying to become doctors could read in order to learn about dermatology. I don't know how much of the information inside this book was correct because there's a lot of really weird science back then, especially in Europe, but I mean, it's a start. A few years later, the Hôpital Saint-Louis in Paris opened the first school of dermatology in 1801, which helped further establish the medical branch. So there's a lot of non-English words in this article. We got some French, we got some Latin, we got some Italian. There's just a lot of foreign languages happening here. But I mean, if you're studying Western science or medicine past a certain point in the past, like everything's going to be in Latin or some European language. So please bear with me. So the Hôpital Saint-Louis it's a hospital in France. So this is the word for hospital. They just took out the S in French, and Saint-Louis is just St. Louis. So the Hôpital Saint-Louis, or the St. Louis Hospital, they opened the first school of dermatology in 1801. So that's what, 219 years ago? So, you know, fairly recently in the grand scheme of things, but also relatively far back. And so when they established this school of dermatology at a real hospital in Paris, it kind of helped boost the reputation of the branch of dermatology, right? Because before, people just kind of thought, oh, I mean, it's skin. I don't know, maybe any doctor can just treat diseases of the skin, but this was the first time that dermatology and dermatologists were distinguished or separated from other types of medicine. So, pretty exciting. Yeah, so I did not know a lot about dermatology. I've actually never been to a dermatologist. Definitely did not know about the history of dermatology before I read this article. So lots of interesting and new information in here. Yeah, I hope that this article was helpful for you as well. Hopefully this is something that you find interesting. So yeah, that is our article for this week. I know there were some tricky Italian and Egyptian and French words in here, but never fear, you made it to the end, so good job. All right, so that is our lesson for this week, and I hope that all of you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next week. Okay, bye.